What's going on, everybody? It's been a while. Today we're going to be doing a Skyrim armor tutorial. If you want to go ahead and skip this little intro, timestamp and chapters are on the video, or you can, go here to that timestamp. Just as a quick follow-up, a catch-up on, where I've been and, what my plans are for the future. So, first things first. I posted a poll a few weeks ago now, whether I was going to be doing an Oblivion weapon tutorial or a Skyrim armor tutorial. You guys voted Skyrim, so here's this. But my next video will be the Oblivion weapon video, and then after that, I want to start branching out of strictly mod things. I have a couple other small modding tutorials planned, so I can just keep getting, little bits of content out here and there, try and upload more regularly, because I know I always say that I'm going to do it, but I really, really want to. It's just life's been busy, but I'm finally hitting a point now where I think that, it's definitely a reasonable thing to look into. So that said, though, I would really like to know what you guys want to see. It'd be, more modding stuff, or you have ideas for, other tutorials or other types of videos you would like to see me do. I've been considering Blender tutorials. I've been considering game dev stuff, because I'm working on my own game and I would love to upload some content about that, so I think I'm going to, and just stuff like that. So whatever you guys want to see, whatever ideas that you have, please let me know, and I would love to start branching out. Another note is next year, two big things come out. First of all, the Starfield creation kit comes out next year, and I will absolutely be making a video as soon as it's dropped. And as soon as I figure it out, you guys will be getting a tutorial on it. And then secondly, The Witcher 3, CD Projekt Red is releasing tools to mod The Witcher 3. So I will also be making tutorials about that, because that's really, really exciting. That's super exciting. I never really thought that it would happen. There are some mod tools for it right now, but these are like official real deal ones. I'm really excited about that. So I'll be making some videos about The Witcher 3. And if there are other games that you guys have thought of or would like to see me mod, I've also considered Kenshi, because modding that game isn't overly difficult. It can just be a little bit weird with how you do it, and I would love to show you guys how to do that. So I'm totally cool sticking with modding. My modding videos are never going to go away. I would just like to branch out of just Bethesda games, since that's what I've been doing. I would like to just try some new stuff. So whatever you guys want to see, please let me know, and I would love to make it. And then the last thing, I mentioned this in a couple community polls, but I haven't really gotten a whole lot of feedback about it. I've had a couple people ask me to make a Discord, and I think it'd be a really cool idea to have a Discord server. One of the things I want to do with it is have you guys send me your mods that are broken, or you just want some help with, or whatever it may be, and you send them to me and I fix them. I'll make a video about it, and then I'll send you the fixed mod or the better mod or whatever it is, like a fix your art type video, but for mods. Please let me know what types of videos you'd like to see, what types of games you would like me to do mod tutorials on, and if a Discord would be interesting to you guys, because all three of those things I'd really like to do. Let's go ahead and get into the Skyrim tutorial. Now, I'm not going to have my face cam on for most of this video, mainly because I found that it just kind of clogs up the screen, and as much as I like being able to show my face off, it just clogs up the screen. Sometimes, you guys just don't get to see everything, and things overlap and whatever. I think it's easier this way. If you guys like the face cam, I'll bring it back. I don't mind doing that. But if you guys like this video without the face cam, let me know, and I'll stop including the face cam throughout the entire video like I have in the past. But with that being said, the first thing that we need to go over are the required tools. That being said, let's go ahead and just jump into it. Alright, so first things first, we are going to go over the required tools, like I said. We're going to go through these pretty quickly. So first things first, you need a modeling program, 3D modeling program. Unless you're getting your models from somewhere else, that's fine as well. But if you're making your models yourself, you need a modeling program. For this one, we're using Blender. Good alternatives are Maya and 3ds Max. Both of those are paid. Secondly, we are going to need Substance Painter. That's what I'll be using at least. Another option is Armor Paint. That's $20. Flat fee. Quixel Mixer, I've heard that it's really, really good, and that one's completely free. And then there's also Mudbox, which is $95 a year. So Those are all totally fine. With Substance Painter though, I will be showing you guys specific export settings for Substance Painter and also how to make your own export template for Skyrim textures in Substance Painter. Next, we are going to need the Nifly Blender export and import add-on. If you're not using Blender, obviously you don't need this. But if you're using Blender, this makes the process about 1 billion times easier. The links to every single tool is going to be in the description, as well as links to the alternatives for all these tools, including Maya, 3ds Max, Armor Paint, blah, 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 blah. Next thing you need is Nif Scope. I recommend the most recent version of Nif Scope at always. The most recent version is always the best one to be using. Next thing we're going to need is the Fallout 3 archive utility. For this tutorial, we will be using Skyrim Legendary Edition Nifs. The mod that we're making is for Skyrim Special Edition. In this tutorial, I use Skyrim Legendary Edition Nifs. You can absolutely use Skyrim Special Edition Nifs, but I personally find it a little bit easier to work with the Legendary Edition Nifs, so that's why I'm using them. And we're just using them as a base template for like weight painting and stuff like that. So if you get the Special Edition Nifs, that's totally fine. The program for getting Special Edition Nifs is called BAE, and it's really, really straightforward. If you want a tutorial on how to use BAE, you can look at my Fallout 4 weapon tutorial. I use it there, and you'll just, use it for Skyrim Special Edition instead. To reiterate, I'm using Legendary Edition Nifs. However, you can use Special Edition Nifs. It's just your preference, it's just what you have access to. Either one is fine, but the steps to it are a little bit different. If you are going to follow along with me and use Legendary Edition, you're going to want to get the Fallout 3 archive utility. If you're going to use Special Edition Nifs, you're going to want to get the BAE, and I'll link that in the description as well. And then next, you're going to obviously want the Skyrim Special Edition Creation Kit. You can get it on Steam, and I believe you can also get it from Bethesda.net. So you're going to definitely just need this. That's a no-brainer. You also need some sort of image editing tool. I'll be using Photoshop for this, but there are 2 really good alternatives. They're both free. There's one called GIMP. That's the one that I recommend highly, but also Paint.net. That one's totally okay too. For GIMP, there is a DDS plugin. That's what you need, and I'll make sure I'll link the plugin for GIMP in the description as well. If you're using Photoshop, you absolutely need this plugin. When you download it, it has a README and tells you how to install it. It's very, very simple. It's just dragging and dropping files into folders. Second to last, you're going to need BodySlide and Outfit Studio. This is what we're going to be using to get our outfit on the Skyrim body. This is what we're going to be using for editing our weight paints and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you're going to need the BodySlide and Outfit Studio. You can just download it here. There's the mod manager download, and it downloads it directly into your special edition folder. But if you do a manual download, you need to make sure that you put all of the files, you follow the README and put all the files into your special edition folder. It's very, very simple, very straightforward. And then the last thing we're going to need, this one is kind of an optional requirement, but I do highly recommend that you get it. This is a mod that I made. It's just vanilla presets for the bodies. We are going to be using the vanilla bodies, just because they have the most compatibility, obviously, working across games, because everyone has access to the vanilla bodies. If you're using the CBBE bodies, that's okay. It's the exact same process. You'll just be importing the CBBE bodies, which come with BodySlide and Outfit Studio when you download them. If you want to use the vanilla bodies, you can download these preset sliders from the mod page that I've linked in the description. The very, very first thing that we are going to do is be getting our reference Nifs from the Fallout 3 archive extractor. Now, again, this part, if you're using Special Edition Nifs, you'll just use BAE and follow the tutorial that I have in my Fallout 4 video. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so first things first, we're going to be opening up the Fallout 3 archive. Once you have that open, you're going to go up to File, Open Archive. Alright, and then you're going to be navigating to your data folder and your Skyrim Legendary Edition. You're going to be looking through it until you find Skyrim Meshes.bsa. You're going to click on that and then click Open. Once it's loaded, you're going to open up your meshes folder, and then we're going to be grabbing a couple things. So we're going to be grabbing the reference nifs for your vanilla armor that you want to base it off of, and for the male and female vanilla bodies, and the nif for the coin. Now I know it's weird grabbing the coin, but you'll see why later. Just make sure you grab it. So first we're going to go over to the actors tab, and then we're going to open up the characters folder, and then you're going to be looking in character assets. Now if you want to just make an armor or clothing for a male or a female, you'll just be grabbing whichever ones you need, but I highly recommend grabbing both. We're going to find male body, and then hold down control while you click these. Male body _0 _1, male feet 0 and 1, male hands 0 and 1. And then if you're making a helmet or a hood, grab the head as well. I'm gonna scroll back up, try and find the female. So got female feet 0 and 1, hands, head, and then where is the body? There we go. All right. Don't grab the body Astrid, that's her burnt corpse. And then the next thing you're gonna do, scroll down even more, and then we're gonna be going into the armor folder or clothing. It depends on what you're making. Whenever you're selecting your reference, you wanna make sure that it's something kind of close, like shape-wise, to what you plan on making. So just visualize whatever you're making in your head, and then just try and pick a vanilla armor that's close to it in shape, just because it'll make it a lot easier if you have the same silhouette when we're copying over the weight paints. So for this example, I'm going to be grabbing the Thieves Guild armor. So I'm going to open up the armor tab, then we're going to go down to Thieves Guild, female. We're going to be grabbing the normal boots, the bracers, and then the torso. Then we're going to go down to male. I'm only making armor for female, but I'm just showing you how to do it. You're also going to be grabbing the boots here, bracers, and torso. Now also, what we need is, you see this boots G and D, gonna want to grab that too. See, the G and Ds are the ground objects in game, so whenever you throw it on the ground or look at it in your inventory, this is the mesh that it's using. So you want to make sure you grab those, because we're going to be making these for our armor as well. So the torso G&D and the bracers G&D. Now usually they don't have a separate G&D for male and female, they just use the same one. It depends on the armor, but most don't. So if you don't see it in the female folder or the male folder, try the other one and grab it from there. It doesn't really matter. If you're making a female only armor like I am, you can still use the quote-unquote male G&D. It's the same thing, don't worry about it. And then the very last thing, we need to grab the coin. So we're going to go into clutter, and then we're going to scroll all the way down and find coin01.nif. Control click that as well. So once you have all your nifs selected, you're going to be going to action, and then extract selected files. You don't want to extract all of them. Well, maybe you do. You can extract every single file in the game if you want, and then sort through them that way. It's really up to you, but I'm just going to be extracting the selected ones. So extract selected files, and you can pick wherever this goes. I'm just going to throw it on my desktop for simplicity. Select. Alright, and then now we can close this. And it's the same thing for BAE. Alright, go ahead and open up meshes. So you see, follows the same file structure, so now we got all these guys in here. The next thing that we're going to be doing is opening up Blender. So go ahead and wherever you install it, go ahead and open up Blender. Alright, once you have Blender open, we're going to be installing the Pi add-on. You're going to be opening it up from the link in the description. You're going to go down to Files, and then Manual Download. Alright, and then we're going to grab it from here. Just drag it onto our desktop real quick. I personally have an add-ons folder for all my Blender add-ons, but it's really up to you what you want to do. Go into Blender, and then we're going to go up to Edit, Preferences. I'll bring up this window here. Going to click Install, navigate to wherever you saved it, and then you're just going to click the whole zip and click Install Add-on. I don't want it to overwrite any of my settings, so I'm not going to click it. But when you click Install Add-on, the Pi add-on will install itself. And then it should look a little bit like this one here. It'll just be Nif format, And you're just going to want to make sure that this is ticked and enabled. When you're done, go ahead and close that. Delete all this garbage in the scene originally. And then next, we are going to be importing our references that we just got from the Fallout 3 archive. So you're going to go up to File, Import, Nif file with nifly.nif. Go to wherever you saved them. So we are going to be grabbing every single Nif that we just extracted, except for the coin. Don't bring the coin in. The coin comes in later. Also, do not bring in the GNDs. We don't need them. We'll be making the GND and Outfit Studio later. Just bring in the base armor and the bodies. You'll just go in here, select, and unfortunately, you can select multiple, but it'll only import one at a time. So you're gonna have to import each one of these at a time. You're just gonna click on it, click Import with Nifly. There we go. And we got it. So one thing that's kind of weird about Blender imports is that by default it has them facing the wrong way. So the front is technically the back view and vice versa. You can turn it, just make sure you turn it back around before you export it. Personally, I just leave it so I don't forget to turn it before I export it, but that's completely up to you. And then you're just going to repeat process for the rest. File, import, Nif files with Nifly, and then we're going to bring in the feet and continue. So I won't be showing you guys the actual modeling in this video because I don't want to take up a bunch of extra time. I did record the whole modeling process and I will be uploading it as its own separate video. I'll have it linked in the description, and then it should show up in the top right of your screen now if you want to go see that. Just the time lapse of me modeling it. I do a little bit of voiceover, just giving you my process. But this is the final outcome. This armor is based off of Briar from League of Legends, hence the in-theme background today. The main things that I wanted to mention when it comes to modeling your armor, again, this is once you have all of your pieces brought in. So you see here I have my torso armor. I got the boots, bracers, and then, I got the bodies. There are three main things that I wanted to mention. It's poly count, silhouette, and the UVs. And I'm just going to go over these very quickly because these are really nice tips to have whenever you first get into modeling your armor. So the first thing is poly count. I highly recommend you don't go over 30,000 tries, just because over 30,000, things can get sort of bogged down a little bit, and you want to make sure that your mod is really performant because people won't download your mod if it isn't performant. This model here is 17,000. Yes. So everything together, the boots, the torso, and the gauntlets, they are all 17,000 triangles combined, right? Then the next thing that I wanted to mention is overall silhouette. You see that I didn't actually do an amazing job of it, but I did a pretty okay job of trying to keep my armor very, very close to the vanilla silhouette. This is because when we weight paint here in a minute, it'll help a lot in ensuring that your weight paints get transferred accurately from the vanilla mesh to your new one that you just made. If they're like super messed up and it's nowhere close in silhouette to the vanilla mesh, then you're going to be having a lot of weight painting issues and you're going to have to fix those manually, and it's a big pain in the butt. The last thing I wanted to mention is overlapping UVs. So let's go into the UV editing mode real quick. So here we can see my UVs. Let's just grab the UVs for everything. Here you can see I don't have any overlapping UVs on my model. None of them overlap. Save a few exceptions. So you want to make sure you don't have overlapping UVs because it can cause artifact issues in Substance Painter and Armor Paint and Mudbox whenever you go to bake your mesh. However, there are some times when overlapping UVs are okay. In fact, encouraged. So, for example, these two meshes here are identical in pretty much every single way. And instead of taking up double the amount of UV space, I deleted the left side of the arm, the gauntlet, and the boots, and I just put a mirror modifier on them, unwrapped them, and then exported them, and then brought them back in, applied the modifier, and then triangulated the whole thing before I exported it. This is so the same mesh pretty much doesn't take up too much space on your UV. So you can see here, this takes a very minimal space on my UV, but it would be double the space if I had chosen to unwrap these separately, right? If that kind of makes sense. You want to just make sure that you're sparing with your UV space and condensing where and when you can, just so you have the highest quality textures possible. And the very last piece of advice that I have is whenever we finish modeling, don't do this until the very end, and I'll bring it up again later, but whenever we finish modeling, you're going to want to, since your mesh will most likely be in quads, you'll want to open up all the meshes in edit mode, and then type F3. You're going to want to click triangulate faces. This is because most game engines, Bethesda's included, it does really, really well with triangulated meshes, and Nif scopes sometimes have really bad issues if you don't triangulate it before you export. I believe the PyNifly add-on automatically triangulates them, but it's just best to do it yourself before you get to that point, just to make sure that it's done. With that said, we are going to now get into the weight painting section of this tutorial. And before we do, I want to give a quick shout out to the Arcane University Rigging with Blender 2.9 tutorial. I have a link to it in the description and in the PDF file that comes along with this tutorial. So thank you again, Arcane University. You guys are awesome. Keep up the good work. So let's go ahead and get into the weight painting. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the weight painting. So we're going to start off with the torso here. You're going to want to make sure that you have the vanilla torso for the vanilla armor, and then your armor. Very first thing that you're going to do is take note of this skeleton here. You're going to be grabbing your torso first, and then shift clicking the skeleton that comes in when you import the vanilla armor mesh. You're going to want to make sure that the skeleton is the one that's highlighted yellow and that your armor is highlighted orange. Then you're going to do Control P, and this is going to parent your mesh to the skeleton that was brought in. So we're going to do set parent to armature deform with empty groups. All right. So now when you look at your torso and go down to the data tab over here on the right, you're going to have all these data groups, or I'm sorry, all these vertex, and these are all the different bones, right? So now, next what we're going to do is click on the vanilla armor, and then click on your armor. Your armor should be highlighted yellow, vanilla armor orange. And this is where we transfer the weights from the vanilla mesh to your mesh. And to explain what weights are very briefly, is the weight painting is basically what tells the computer how to deform the mesh based off of the skeleton and where your weights are placed on your mesh, right? So if you have really strong weight painting in an area, that means when the bone that is attached to that weight painting is moved, that area of the mesh that you painted will move more, if that makes sense. So with those things selected, again, vanilla mesh first, your mesh second. Your mesh should be highlighted yellow, vanilla should be orange. Go up here to object mode and then go to weight paint mode, right? So now your mesh should be highlighted blue and the vanilla mesh should still be gray. So then you're going to go up to weights and then click transfer weights. Now there's a couple things that we need to switch around in here. Where it says vertex mapping, we're going to set to nearest face interpolated. Then where it says source layers, we're going to change it from active layer to by name. And then once that's done, we just go back up to weight paint, go back into object mode, hide the vanilla torso, click yours, go back into weight paint, and then now when we scroll through all these weights, we should see that the weights have been transferred. If as you're scrolling through these, the entire mesh is just the same blue color on all of these different vertex groups, that means that the weights did not transfer properly and that you're gonna have to check them again, right? So we're just scrolling through here and making sure that the weights got transferred and they all look good. All right, and so then we're just gonna repeat that process for the rest of the pieces. and your weights are transferred. Now, this doesn't mean that the weights are going to work perfectly, because again, we're transferring them from a mesh that is not identical, right? So we're still going to have to check them in game and see, you know, where any, if there are any discrepancies lie, and we're going to have to fix those up. But for now, this is where we are at. So the very next thing that we are going to want to do is export all of these armor pieces. So we're going to go ahead and just start with the torso real quick. Go ahead and click on it, click File, Export, Nif file with Nifly. Then I'm going to go into this meshes folder here, and then I'm just going to name it torso.nif. Make sure that the target game is set to Skyrim. The default thing is totally fine. Rename bones can be on, preserve component hierarchy can be turned off. Don't mess with those unless you know what you're doing, but make sure that the target game is Skyrim. If you want to set it to Skyrim SE, that is also okay. It just depends on a number of different factors. Personally, I recommend setting it to Skyrim because it'll be a little bit easier to follow along with the tutorial, but realistically, it really shouldn't have any big issues because when we import these Nifs into Outfit Studio, they're going to get converted to Skyrim SE Nifs anyways, and then when we export them, they'll be SE Nifs. So it really just depends on what you want to do. But if you vertex painted, which we'll go over here in a second, but if you vertex painted your mesh, you're going to want to make sure that you set this to Skyrim because it's easier to take those vertex paints off with LE Nifs rather than SE Nifs. But anyways, I'm going to set it to Skyrim, torso.nif, export Nif. Alright, and then we're going to be opening up gauntlets, file, export, Nif file to Nifly, meshes, Skyrim, and same thing, export. And so then we're going to do it with the boots as well. Alright, so now we are going to talk about the Substance Painter exports, right? So now we're going to be exporting our mesh so it can go into Substance Painter. First few housekeeping things. We're going to want to go up here to the Overlays tab, and then we're going to want to click Face Orientation. Just make sure that your normals are good before you export it. I can't tell you the amount of times I forgot to check this, and that I had a couple normals that were messed up, and I had to re-export it, and it's a whole big thing. But you're just going to want to make sure that these are good. If it's blue, you're good. If it's red, you're bad. Looking into the armor, obviously it's going to be red because that is the back face of the normal. But so long as all of your outward-facing normals are blue, you are golden. So that's just one really good thing to check. First things first, I want to talk about vertex painting just very quickly, all right? So I've mentioned this before, but if you are exporting to for Substance Painter, and I believe also Armor Paint has this capability, and Quixel Mixer, but I'm not positive. But vertex painting can be really helpful, especially with Substance Painter. All it is basically is just a color map that you create to help make it easier to apply different materials to your armor in Substance Painter. So let me show you what I mean. So we're gonna go over here. We're gonna click on the we're gonna click on this belt here because this is an example. I'm gonna go up here to where it says Object Mode and switch it to Vertex Paint. And so we're gonna go in here, just select all of it real quick. So you can see here how there's two different materials. So this blue here is gonna be my leather material, and then this orange here, this is gonna be my sort of bronze material, right? So when I get into Substance Painter, I can bake this as a map, and then I can use the map to mask off different areas with different materials. So it's just a helpful thing if you want to do it. It's completely up to you. All you need to do it is go, like I said, from Object Mode to Vertex Paint, select the faces that you want to be a certain color, press Tab to go back to Vertex Paint. Make sure you go up here to the paint mask. It looks like a square, and it's gonna make it so these guys are not currently selected. And then you're gonna want to set a color up here. And then once you have that color selected, you're just going to do Shift K, and it will, and all the faces that you had selected in edit mode will then be painted into the color that you selected, right? And so you want to make sure you're separating materials with different colors, right? And try and make the colors as different as possible. You don't want them to be too close together, so Substance Painter gets confused, and then you have to deal with that. One thing about vertex painting, though, is that because of how Nifs work, if you vertex paint your armor, the color will more likely than not show up after you export the Nif. that'll show up over your textures. So I'm going to show you a way of fixing that later on. Just keep in mind that that is a real possibility. You can always take the vertex colors off just by setting them to white before you export it, but again, that is your choice. I'll show you how to do it in Nif Scope. It's really easy. It takes like 1 minute. It's not that hard. Go ahead, if you want to vertex paint your whole model and separate each of the pieces by material, you are more than welcome to do so. Once you've done that, we're going to be exporting our low poly model, right? So I have a high poly sculpt and a low poly mesh, right? You don't necessarily have to have a high poly sculpt. I recommend it so you can bake in all those textures together, but if you really know what you're doing and you're confident that you don't need one, that's great for you. But for all of us with a high poly mesh, I'm going to show you guys how to export that as well. So we're going to be selecting every piece of our low poly mesh. With all of them selected, you're going to want to do Control A, and then apply all transforms, just to make sure that you're not having any weird scaling or transform issues when you export. That's just a good piece of housekeeping before you export it. Then we're going to go up to File, Export FBX. And I have an operator preset in here. You can set them yourself. I'll show you how to set it real quick. So the settings that we want for Substance Painter, go here to Armors. You're going to want to name this file, whatever your armor's name is, _LP. And then you're going to want to go over here and we're going to do Selected Objects. Get rid of all the object types except Mesh. And then turn off Bake Animation. And then once you have those, you can click this plus button and then name it, Substance Painter, and click OK. And then you'll have a preset. So every single time that you go to export an FBX, you can just go up here, click Substance Painter, and then it sets all these things for you. It's really nice. And then just click Export FBX. And then for our high poly mesh, one thing I want to point out is that if you have all these different selected pieces and stuff, you're going to want to make sure that you name them the same, right, between your high poly and low poly mesh. So for example here, this belt here on her chest is named belt_2_HP in all caps, and then the low poly mesh is belt_2_LP in all caps. And so what's important about doing that is that when we get into Substance Painter, we can actually make it so meshes are only baked by mesh name. So it'll basically mask itself off and bake each individual piece separately and then combine them all into one normal map. That's a very big oversimplification for it, but it just helps us ensure that we don't have artifacting and weird texturing issues. So I highly recommend doing this if you have separate pieces of your armor or have some way of separating the pieces before you export it. Just ensure you don't have those kinds of difficulties, but that's up to you. Now it's going to be the exact same process. We're going to go ahead and select our high poly mesh, select all the pieces of it, File, Export FBX, and then you're going to use the same presets, Substance Painter, Meshes, and then you're going to want to name it, your armor name _HP for high poly, and then export. Now with those things exported, the very next thing that we are going to do is go ahead and hop into Substance Painter, and I'm going to show you how to set all that up. Alright, once in Substance Painter, we're going to go ahead and go up to File, click New. For the template, we are going to be setting this to PBR Specular Glossiness Starter Assets. So PBR, where is it? PBR Specular Glossiness Starter Assets. Set the document resolution. I like setting it to 4K just because I like giving people a 4K texture option. You can set it to 2K. It really doesn't matter all that much. You can change this when you're in Substance Painter as well. It's just, whatever you want it to be by default. Once you have that though, you can just go ahead and click File, Select, and then we're going to be wanting to bring in our low poly, so your armor name _LP. Alright, then you just click OK. Alright, once you have it brought in, since you'll likely have exported this backwards as per how Skyrim does it, you'll want to make sure that you set up the light so you can see it well. So hold down Shift and then right click, and you can actually move the light in Substance Painter around. So you just want to move it around so you can see the front of it. Anyways, so we're going to go up to this little croissant here, or press F8 to go to our baking menu. This is going to have the name of the material that you had it as in Blender. Mine was named black just because while I was working on it, it was a all black material. You can change this now if you want to be the name of your armor set, so I have this be Briar. It's up to you though, you can always change it later. First things first, we are going to be showing you how to bake your ID map. This is only relevant if you did the vertex painting. If you did not do the vertex painting, skip this part. We're going to go up to File Output, do 4K. You can also do 2K. It doesn't really need to be a 4K map. Go over here to the Mesh Map Bakers, and then deselect everything except the ID map. Then click on ID, and then from Color Source, you're going to click Vertex Color. And then you click Bake. And then just to show you a little bit better what an ID map is, or a vertex painting does. So, like I said before, all these things were painted using vertex painting in Blender. And so I can now separate this between 3 separate materials really easily, and I'll show you guys how to do that here in a second. So I have white for the iron, I have this orange for like the steel, and then the blue for the leather. So anyways, we're gonna go back to baking, and now I'm gonna quickly show you how to bake without a high poly, right? So we're going to be deselecting ID, and we're going to select normal, world space normal, ambient occlusion, curvature, position, and thickness. So then go click back on common settings. You're going to want the output size of this one to be 4K, most likely. It really depends on what you want, but I highly recommend making this 4K because you can always scale it down later, but it's kind of a pain to come back here and bake it again later. For anti-aliasing, you can turn this up if you want. It makes your bake run a little bit longer, but it does make your bake textures a little bit smoother, so it's kind of whatever you want to do. Then for match, down here, you're going to change it from always to by mesh name. You can also come down here to ambient occlusion. If you're having issues with your ambient occlusion baking incorrectly and having some artifacting issues, likely what is happening is the self-occlusion because you have pieces of your mesh clipping together and it's having a hard time baking those pieces. So if you're having those issues and artifacting issues with your ambient occlusion map, come in to here, click ambient occlusion, and then where it says self-occlusion, click to only same mesh name. That just really helps make sure that you avoid artifacting issues. Personally, I bake with it off because I like having a uniform ambient occlusion map, but again, that is completely up to you. It's whatever you want to do. But once you have all those things selected, you just go ahead and click Bake Textures. Alright, so now back into here. Now we have a baked ambient occlusion map and world space normals and all that fun stuff. So if you don't have a high poly mesh, now is where you start texturing. But if you do have a high poly mesh, let's go ahead and do that. So first things first, with a high poly mesh, all these same maps need to be checked, but then you're also going to check thickness, height, and bent normals. If you don't have a high poly mesh, you can also click those things, but I tend to find that they're not overly useful and that they don't really have a large place. If you don't have a high poly mesh, they have very little effect, but if you do, you're going to want to make sure you turn these on. They just add a lot of extra data that you can use while texturing your asset, and it helps a lot. So then once you have the normal, world space, ambient occlusion, curvature, position, thickness, height, and bent normals map selected, you're going to go over here to high poly definition meshes, click this little file icon, and then click your high poly mesh, right? And then click open. So you should see something that looks a little bit like this big wireframe over your mesh. Next thing you want to do is make sure that you click match. It'll be set to always by default, but you want to click it to by mesh name. I've just noticed that fixes a lot of artifacting issues because it's making sure, as I said before, it's just making sure that only the pieces that share the same mesh name are being baked together, right? So you won't get artifacting issues from like belt and stuff on the torso, right? So it's very helpful in that regard. So I highly recommend that you do that. And then down here, the low poly mesh suffix, mine was _LP in all caps. And then the high poly suffix was _HP in all caps. And see that warning went away. So now it's matching up the high poly to low poly mesh one for one really well, because I named all the things correctly. So that's just the importance of making sure that these things are named correctly. Another thing that I like to do, and this is just sort of like a best practice sort of thing, but it is completely up to you. I like to change the max frontal distance to as low as possible. If you change it to like really low, you start getting like these big red clipping issues. So don't want to set it too low, but I try and set it as low as possible before I get those issues. Just because it ensures that pieces of your mesh that are close together aren't baking on top of each other. Because even in situations like this here with the belts, if I don't have this set high enough, because this buckle and this belt are all part of the same mesh with the same mesh name, theoretically, it could try and bake parts of the buckle onto the actual belt itself. So, you know, setting it as low as possible usually helps avoid those artifacting issues. But another thing to avoid artifacting issues is going to the ambient occlusion map, setting self occlusion to only same mesh name. It does virtually the same thing that this here does. Personally, I don't really like doing that if I don't have to, just because I like having a uniform ambient occlusion map over the whole thing. But you know, if you're having really bad artifacting issues and have no other way of fixing it, that can usually be some sort of fix. Your thickness map has the same thing. That can help avoid artifacting issues, only same mesh name. And then your bent normals, again, self-occlusion, only same mesh name. It just, you can play with these settings a little bit, bake it a few times. I recommend, if you have a high poly mesh, because the bake can take so long, I recommend baking it at like 2K at first, just to get a test pass on it. And so long as everything's looking good, then you bump it up to 4K, add the anti-aliasing if you want it to smooth out your textures a little bit, smooth out your maps a little bit, and then do a full bake. But with that said, once you click bake selected textures and the textures are baked, you are then ready to texture your mesh. Alright, one thing I wanted to show off before we get to the export section is how to use the ID map really quick. These are all a bunch of materials that I made myself that I find are really well compatible with Skyrim. I have my Skyrim leather material, my Skyrim dark steel material, and my Skyrim bronze material. I may release these one day just as a modding resource, but you know, if you guys want these materials, let me know. I'll release them as a resource for you to use in Substance Painter as well. That's totally fine with me. Just let me know if you want to see this. But anywho, so we are going to I'm going to quickly show you how to use your ID map. So we're going to go ahead and find, okay, so this one's just color selection. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the mask off that. All right, so let's just say we just put this material on our mesh and now it is all over the place. I mean, this kind of looks cool. I'm not gonna lie, it looks really cool. But we don't really want it on all the leather parts, right? So we just want it on this little bit down here. So to use our ID map, right, we're gonna right click it and then add mask with color selection, right? So now everything, it will be taken off of everything. So then you're gonna find the area, you know, with the color in your ID mask that you wanted to add it to. I'm gonna go over here where it says color selection, click pick color, and then you're gonna select a color from your ID map. So if I want it on all the orange sections, I'll select orange, blue, white. I want it on white, so I'm gonna select white, and there you go. That's how you use the ID map. It's really easy, and they're really, really helpful, so you don't have to like select each face individually because it's such a pain, but it's completely up to you guys. I just wanted to point that out to you. So with all these things finished though, we are going to go ahead and export our textures. Now, Substance Painter doesn't have a good export for Skyrim by default, go figure. So we're going to have to make our own. And so this output template that I'm about to show you, you can use for all of your Skyrim meshes in the future. So we're going to go up to File, Export Textures, Output Templates, and then we're going to click this plus sign here, and we're going to add a new one. Give it a new name, tutorial, SSE. Did I spell tutorial wrong? Oh yeah, I did. Alright, and then once that's done, we're going to click on it. We're going to click on it again. The very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over here, and we're going to, for the output mask, we're going to click RGB plus A. We're going to get rid of that, and then click this little dollar sign here. and click texture set. So now whenever it's exported, it's going to replace this money sign texture set with the actual name of your texture set, which is really, really cool. It saves you a lot of time, so you don't have to like rename all of them manually. But anyways, so we're just gonna name this $sign texture set because this is gonna be our base color, right? So first thing we're gonna do is go over here and we're gonna get the base color from the input maps. We're gonna drag it onto the RGB channel, and then we're going to click RGB channels. Next thing we're going to do is go over here to input maps. We're going to find the opacity, and we're going to drag it over to our alpha channel, and then from gray channel. Right. All right, so next we need to make the normal. So we're going to do RGB plus A. Get rid of this garbage. $sign texture set, and then underscore N to signify that this is our normal map, right? So now from the converted maps area over here, we're going to be grabbing our normal DirectX, putting it onto RGB, and clicking RGB channels. And then next, we're going to go over to our converted maps again. We're going to find our glossiness, and we're going to drag this on to our alpha channel, and then gray channel. All right, and then last but not least, we are going to make our metallic map. So create, this one's just going to be RGB because we don't need an alpha channel for this one. RGB, and then we're just going to delete that, texture set, then underscore M as in Matthew. All right, and then we're going to find our metallic map, this one right here, and we're going to drag it over to here, and then gray channel. And then you're done. This is now your output template. So you'll use this anytime that you're exporting textures from Substance Painter to be used in Skyrim, right? So now that that's done, go over here to settings. For our output directory, I made a tutorial folder, so I'm just going to open up that one real quick. Tutorial, textures, and then Skyrim. All right, so we're going to export our 4K textures first. So select folder, just going to be selecting the folder that you want to send it to. You want to make sure that if you're exporting 2K and 4K textures, they're exported to different folders because they'll have the same name. They're going to overwrite each other. So make sure that 4K and 2K textures are separated into different channels. So then with our output template, we're going to be selecting the very new output template that we just made, and then size. I want to make sure this is set to 4K. Back to global settings, and then we just click export. All right, then we're going to go back to settings, click our output directory, find our 2K folder, select folder, 2K textures, export. Now your textures are exported. So the very next thing that we're going to do, just to give you a rundown of where we are at the video, our model is made, our weights are painted, our textures are texturized and exported. Now we are going to be in order. We're going to be converting our textures to a DDS. Then we're going to be setting up our folder structure. Then we're going to be setting up our Nifs to be brought into Outfit Studio. Then we're going to be bringing them to Outfit Studio and putting them all together. Then we're going to go make our mod in the creation kit, and then we should be finished after some, tweaking and other fun stuff. But now that this is done, you can go ahead and close Substance Painter and then open up either GIMP or Photoshop or whatever you're using. All right, so once we have Photoshop open, the first thing you're going to want to do is install the Intel TextureWorks DDS plugin for Photoshop. If you're using GIMP, you're going to want to use the DDS plugin for GIMP that I provided in the description. You can download it from the Nexus mod page that is linked in the description. It's really easy to download. There's a README file in the zip folder that you download that shows you how to install it. But once we have that installed, we're going to be opening up our textures that we just exported from Substance Painter. And then we're going to be dragging them into Photoshop. First things first, we're going to be working on the normal map. So once you have them in, you're going to do Control-Shift-S. Save as file type, you're going to be changing that to Intel TextureWorks. If you didn't change the name of your textures at any point up until this point, and you want them to be a certain name, change them now, because these are the textures that are going into game. So I'm changing mine to Briar because I forgot to do it earlier. I made a separate DDS folder. If you're making 2K and 4K textures, make sure that they're in separate folders again, because you don't want them to get overridden, because they will share the same names. Once you have that, I'm saving these in the DDS folder. File name is correct, save file type is correct, I'm going to click save, and then you're going to get a dialog box here. In the dialog box, we're going to be changing a few of these settings here. So since this is the normal map, we're going to be changing the texture type to color plus alpha. There is a normal map option, but I find that works better for Fallout 4. And for my export settings from Substance Painter, we're using color plus alpha. For the compression, we are going to be setting this to BC7 8 BPP fast linear DirectX 11. And then for bitmaps, you're going to have it auto-generate. Now, if you plan on modding a lot, I highly recommend you turn this into a preset. You can do that very easy by clicking save here, typing in like SSE normal. And then you just click enter and it saves as a preset. I already have one, SSE normal, same thing. And then we're just gonna click OK. You can preview them. This preview, the one on the left is the original, the one on the right is the export. This is good for checking like artifacting and like compression issues from when it gets exported. To me, this looks really good. It also tells you the new file size. So this is going from 64 megabytes to 21 megabytes. So we're going to do OK. And then we're going to click OK. And then now we're going to do the normal map. Control Shift S. DDS folder. Briar _M. Save file type as Intel TextureWorks. Save. And then for the metallic, we're going to be doing texture type as color. The compression is going to be the BC1 4 BBP linear. You can preview this one. So this is the highest compression type. And you may see some very subtle noise and compression issues here when you scroll all the way in. Since this is a metallic map, that's really not that big of a deal. And I highly recommend keeping it at BC1. But if you don't like it and the metallic map is very important to your model, you can always set this to BC7 BPP8 fast linear. And that has slightly less compression. File size will be bigger, but it will be less compressed. You can also do BC4. Again, the compression is a lot less. The file size is about the same, but this can have its own sort of artifacting issues. These ones sometimes being even worse. I highly recommend just sticking with BC1 linear. But again, that is totally up to you and how you want to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and then click OK. Get rid of that. All right, and now this is the base color. Control Shift S. I'm going to name this Briar. DDS folder. Save as Intel TextureWorks.dds. Save. Texture type is going to be color and alpha. The compression is going to be BC7 8 BPP fast linear DirectX 11. Bitmaps auto generate. You're gonna generate bitmaps for all of them, all the textures. And again, you can make another preset for this. You can also preview it, just check it out, make sure it's looking good. This one should be totally fine. Click OK, and then OK. So once you have all of those done, the very next thing that we're going to do is set up our folder structure. And now we're going to open up our Skyrim Special Edition folder, go into data, and so we're going to be making 2 folders, possibly 4, it depends. So first thing you're going to do is go into your meshes folder. If you've installed armor mods in the past, you'll probably have an armor folder. If you haven't, then you probably won't. I highly recommend making an armor folder just because a lot of modders add their mods into this same armor folder, and so it just keeps nomenclature pretty the same across the board. But it is up to you. You can make your own mods folder. But anyways, so we're gonna go into the armor folder, and then in this folder we're gonna make our own new folder. We're gonna call it tutorial Briar. And then same thing, we're gonna go back to data. We're gonna go into our textures folder, armor, create a new folder, tutorial, Briar. Alright. Double click it, and then these DDS textures that you just exported from Photoshop, we'll Control C to copy it. We're gonna paste them right in there. Alright, and then the next thing that we do before we get into the fun stuff with Outfit Studio and BodySlide is we're gonna go ahead and set up our Nifs. Wherever you exported your Nifs from, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna open up the torso, work on this first. So you're gonna see if you vertex paint it, it's gonna be it's gonna have all the same colors as your vertex paint. First thing we're gonna do is get rid of that. So the names of the different nodes are going to be slightly different between the Legendary Edition Nifs that I'm using and the Special Edition Nifs that you're using, but follow the same file structure and you should have pretty much the same result, right? Okay, so first we're going to get rid of the vertex painting. We're going to click on the mesh. I have NI tri-shape data, I believe, for SE Nifs. I believe it is BS tri-shape data, but I could be incorrect there. I'm pretty sure that's right though. Anyways, we're going to click on that. And then we're going to go click the NI tri-shape data. In the block details, we're going to look for vertex colors, click the color wheel, and set it to white. So now it should be pink, and that's just indicating that we don't have any colors. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look for our BS lighting and shader property. And so you can see here, many of you probably might not know this, but right now we don't have an environment map on our model, and environment mapping is currently disabled. Environment mapping is really good for metallic materials and just making sure that everything looks correct in game when it comes to textures, especially metallic stuff. So we're going to go ahead and enable environment mapping real quick. This is a common issue whenever you're exporting from Blender with the Nifly add-on, but it's a really easy fix. So we're just going to click on our mesh. We're going to click on the BS lighting shader property. Where it says the Skyrim shader type, we're going to double click it. In this dropdown, we're going to change it from default to environment map. And then the shader flex 1, we're going to double click that too. And then we're going to tick on environment mapping, and then you can just click anywhere, get out of that. And so now it should look something like this. And now we know that the environment map is working. Next thing, we're going to click on the drop down back in the block list of the BS lighting shader property, and then we're going to click on the BS shader texture set node. This here is where you're going to be putting all of your textures. So our first line here, that is the base color. This is the normal. We're going to skip a couple down to here. This is the cube map or the environment map. And then this is the metallic map, right? So let's just go ahead and add these real quick. So we're going to be getting the file path for our textures. So you can open up your textures in your Skyrim data folder. So Skyrim Special Edition, Data, Textures, Armor, and then your folder. You can just double click the address bar, and then you're going to be taking Textures, Armor, and then the name of your folder. I'm going to copy that, paste it in here, then do another backslash, and then the name of your texture.dds. So this is my base color. So I named it Briar.dds, and that's the name of the texture. So then we just click enter. Should show up. You can see here, it's Briar. So then what we can do is we can copy this, and then in the next bar, the second one, paste it back. And then I'm going to add in after Briar _n, because that's what I named my normal map.dds. Click enter. So now your normal map should be showing up. Go down two more to the, we're going to go down to the fifth line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then here's where we're going to be opening up our cube map. I have a full folder of cube maps so I can get all their names. For this one, I'll be using the orgold_e. But the file path is the same for all the cube maps. It's textures, cube maps, / and then the name of the cube map. So mine's orgold_e.dds. All right, so now we can see we have our cube map on it, right? And then for the last one, I'm going to be again copying this here. So this one's our metallic map. Double click on that. Control V, and then Briar underscore M.dts, enter. All right, now got our metallic map on there. And for all intents and purposes, our torso is done, which is pretty awesome, right? So now we're just gonna do Control S, and you're gonna wanna keep this open, right? Especially if you have multiple armor pieces, because what we're gonna do next is we're gonna open up our boots Nif, and then we're gonna be copying a lot of stuff from the torso Nif that we just made. But first things first, we gotta get rid of the vertex colors. So click on your mesh, and I tri-shape data. Go down to block details, vertex colors, click on the color wheel, white, okay. And then we gotta enable environment mapping. So going down to the BodySlide shader property, Skyrim shader type from default to environment map, and then the shader flex. We're gonna double click on that, Dropbox, and then enable environment mapping, and then you can click anywhere to get out of it. All right, cool. And now all we have to do is add in our textures. So click the BS shader and texture set. So what's really cool now is since you finished your torso, you can just copy from, if I can get this to work. Oh, there we go. Now we can just copy from our torso. So double click this goes there, this goes there. And this only works if all of your textures share the exact same name, if they're all part of the same texture map, which 9 times out of 10 they should be. But if they're not, then you'll just go through the same process as before of just making sure that you have the right names for everything. But once that's done, you can just Control S on the boots, and now the boots are finished. So once you get the first part done, it streamlines the rest of it pretty easily. All right, so now we have our gauntlets, same thing. Gonna click on them, and I tri-shape data, vertex colors, color wheel, set that to white. Then we're gonna go down to our BodySlide shader property, change it from the Skyrim shader type from default to environment map, and then the shader flags, we're going to enable environment mapping. Click out of that, click the drop down of BodySlide shader property, open up the BS shader texture set, and then again, we're just gonna copy and paste. All right, and then once those are done, we're gonna do Control S and save. All right, cool beans. Cool beans. So now we have finally reached the point of excitement. We finally get to open up Outfit Studio. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you how to download Outfit Studio really quickly. So first things first, you're going to want to make sure that you open up your Skyrim data folder. So we're going to go to Skyrim Special Edition. Then we're going to go into our data folder. Go back to the mod page. You can find this in the description. Go to Files, and you can download it with the mod manager, and it will put it in the right place automatically. But if you don't have Vortex, you can manually download it. Slow download, and then grab it, throw that on our desktop. All right. So now double click the zip file that you just downloaded. All right, and then in your data folder, make sure you're in your data folder. You can copy everything from the zip file and then just drag it directly into your data folder. It'll copy everything over. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to override my presets, but you can just copy it all over and it will be installed. Once it's installed, you're going to go to the new Cliente Tools folder. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Open up the BodySlide folder, and so now you got everything. If you have a 64-bit system, you do 64. If you have a 32-bit system, you do the normal one. I have a 64-bit system, so I'm going to double-click Outfit Studio 64-bit. Let's go ahead and import our Nifs that we just added all of our textures to. To do that, we're going to go up to File, Import from Nif. Then we're going to locate them. And so I got here the boots, gauntlets, and torso. And again, I am making a one-piece armor. If you are making separate armors, you will just import one of these. So if you're making the cuirass, you'll import the torso. If you're making the gauntlets, boots, the boots. And then you'll import their body part along with it. So, torso will be the body. The gauntlets will be the hands. Sometimes, not always do you need to import the hands. It kind of depends on your armor in particular. But, we'll get into that a little bit more later. And then the boots, you'll import the feet. But since I'm doing one piece, I'm just going to import all of them. Now, If you use LE Nifs like I did, you will get this little pop-up. Would you like Skyrim Nifs to be optimized for SSE during the session? You click yes, but if you use SE Nifs, you won't get this pop-up. Alright, so now we got our armor. So now here is the fun part, where we bring in the body. So bringing in the body, it's going to look like a normal Nord body. But what's important is that it's not always going to be the Nord body. Basically, we're importing it, and it's going to be used as a reference for the game to add in the racial textures to. So if you're a dark elf, it gets changed to the dark elf textures, Argonian, Khajiit, all that stuff. We're just importing basically a reference, right? Let's go ahead and download our references real quick. So the mod that I brought up earlier, that I made, it's not really a mod, it's just the slider presets. I'll have the link to it in the description. Again, I made this one. I know it works. This is exactly what I'm using in the video, so you should have no issue with it. So we're gonna go over here, click Files. If you download it with Vortex, it'll go into the correct spot. But if you want to download it manually, click Manual Download. All right, and then I'm gonna drag this onto my desktop. All right. So we're gonna open up the data folder in it, and then BodySlide. All right, and then we can just copy the shape data and the slider sets folder from the mod that you just downloaded, and then you can paste it directly into the BodySlide folder here, right? And it has the OSP files in there that we will be using, right? So you can just drag these and drop them directly into the BodySlide folder that's in your Skyrim data folder directory. Right. So once you have those in, gonna go up to File, Load Reference, from File, Browse, and then you're going to locate the sliders that I just brought up, the sliders that you downloaded from me that I just showed you how to install a second ago. And you're going to be opening up the vanilla female slider.osp. If it's a female, if it's a male, you'll open up the male. So you're going to click that, click open. And so you got a few different options here. So for shape, you have the underwear, which we won't be using today, and I don't think you will ever use. You got the underwear body. This is the body itself. You'll use this one pretty often. If you're importing the cuirass, this is the one that you're going to be importing. If you're doing boots, you'll bring in the feet. If you're doing gauntlets that have exposed hands, you'll do the hands. So we're going to be bringing in the feet first. And click OK. Now we got the feet in. And so since this is a one-piece armor, I need to bring in multiple of the body parts. If you aren't doing a one-piece armor, you don't need to bring in multiple body parts, you only need to bring in one. But for me, I need to bring in multiple. So I'm going to right-click the feet that we just brought in. I'm going to click Set Reference, so it unsets it as the reference. And then we're going to do File, Load Reference, and again, from File, Browse, Female Slider, Open, and then I'm going to grab the body, and then I'm going to click Merge New Sliders with Existing Sliders, and click OK. So now you see here, sliders all work together. Now we're about to conform our armor so it matches the body as we use the sliders. So, first things first, we're going to save this here by doing Control-Shift-S. I'm going to give it a name. For this one, I'm going to give it Tutorial Briar. And then this, the output data path, you want to make sure that it's the same name of the meshes folder that you created in your Skyrim data folder earlier. So let me show you that real quick. Data, and remember we went to data, and then meshes, and then armor, and then we created a folder, so Tutorial Briar. So you're going to name it the same thing. Once you have these three things filled in, you're going to click to project, and then these will fill in themselves, and then you just click save. Now, to make sure that everything's working, what we're going to do is we're going to go open up our Skyrim data folder, go back to data, go down to tools, BodySlide, and then we're going to open up BodySlide 64-bit. Now, if everything's working properly, when you go over here to outfit/body, you should see Tutorial Briar, or whatever you named yours, show up from this drop-down list. We're going to click that, and we're going to click preview, Everything's looking good. We got all of our pieces in there, right? And we can mess with the high weight, make sure that's all working, and it seems like it is. So we can just go ahead and close that for now, right? So things are good. The next part is that we're going to be conforming our outfit to the body, so they slide together. We're going to be clicking on the torso, then we're going to be doing slider, set base shape. Alright, and then we're going to go click on our body. I'm sorry, click on our torso again. Slider, conform all. Now, what this is doing is ensuring that as we move this slider right here around and the body grows and shrinks, our armor is going to grow and shrink with it accordingly, right? And so this is using, I don't know, math to figure out how to move the faces of your armor mesh around so it conforms correctly. I wouldn't really mess around with these settings too much unless you know what you're doing. The default settings usually work pretty well, so that's what I'm going with today. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now, when we move this slider around, our mesh should be moving with it. And that is pretty neat. However, we're not done yet. Because now, we can go ahead and save there. Now, we need to, where you see all these clipping issues here, we need to get rid of the mesh underneath that we can't see. And that's just to make sure that we get rid of as many clipping issues as possible. It's still not going to be perfect, but we're going to get as close as we can possibly get it. First things first is you're going to want to double click on the torso, the eyeball on the torso up here, and that's going to set it to a wireframe mode. So eyeball, if you click it once, she's naked. If you click it twice, you get a wireframe, right? So then we're going to go ahead and click on the body. We're going to click on this pencil over here and then the mask tool up here at the box. And then we're going to use a little paintbrush here, go up to brush settings to adjust the size of it. You can also just hold S and do your scroll wheel. But now, we're going to paint all of the exposed part. We're going to paint all the skin that we want to keep. And you're going to want to overpaint a little bit, right? Because as it deforms, as the mesh deforms, you want to make sure that you are, you're not getting like back-facing issues. So you can see through your mesh, right? So it doesn't come apart at the seams. Careful about it. And I think that's pretty good. Pretty happy with that. I think that'll be fine. You can always turn off the wireframe and make sure that any exposed skin that you want to keep is like this brownish color, right? And yeah, that's looking pretty good. So now I'm gonna right click on the body and we're gonna click delete vertices. And then we're going to click the paintbrush again, get rid of all the dots. And this is looking pretty good. I'm not seeing any issues. So now we can save there. And then we got to do the feet. So we're going to wireframe the boots, click the feet, and then we're going to go back to the pencil. And again, we're going to just paint all of the faces that we want to keep. A lot of times with boots and gauntlets and stuff, you just won't be adding in this reference mesh at all because they'll be completely covered. But it really just depends on your mesh in particular. There's no real rule around it. It's just whatever works for your mesh. All right, so now we're going to put delete vertices. Right, and then turn the boots back on, get rid of the pencil, and yep, that looks pretty good. So now we're going to go ahead and save it again. So now we're going to go ahead and minimize this, and we are going to open up BodySlide. Again, in the outfit body, you want to make sure that you have the one that we were just working on selected. You're going to go over to preview. Everything looks to be like it's working. Mess with the highway. Ooh, it's deforming pretty well. I still have some clipping issues, as you can see here. It's not really a huge deal. I'll just make sure that I don't set this too high so it clips. So I'll probably keep it around 23. So 23% will be the max that people can set So, okay. The best way to explain this is when you set your body weight all the way up in Skyrim, in reality, when you put on this armor, it'll actually only be at 23% of the max. And I know that's a little low, and it doesn't add a lot of variation, but because of these clipping issues, I want to make sure that, you know, we're not having any serious clipping issues or anything like that. So we'll set it there. I know the average is about 40%, but again, I don't want to mess with my I don't want to have clipping issues, so I'm going to set it to 21. Alright, and with that being said, that looks pretty good to me. I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to go ahead and click Build. So you can see here, all the different meshes were made, and then we're going to click OK. Next, we are going to go ahead and make our G&D. Our G&D. That is our, I don't know what it stands for, but it's our ground mesh. Alright, it's what it looks like on the ground. So, I'm going to open up Outfit Studio again. Going to go up to File, and then we're going to unload this project real quick. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the torso. The torso Nif, right? So, brought in the torso, and then, I mentioned earlier, we brought in, we extracted the coin. If you remember, we extracted the coin. This is where the coin comes in. So we're going to bring in the coin as well. And then we're going to bring in our G&D mesh. So meshes from our vanilla reference. Thieves Guild, Mail, and then a torso G&D. Alright, so. And you might have to make multiple G&D meshes. If you don't have a one-piece armor like I do, you're gonna have to make them for the gauntlets, boots, and the torso. This is how I'm just gonna show you how to make it for the torso since I have a one-piece armor. If you have a one-piece armor, this is all you have to really do. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this now. So now, because of my mesh in particular, I don't want these sleeves to be present since they're not actually connected to the mesh. So what I'm gonna do, click the torso and then click the mask tool, and then the pencil. And then I'm actually just going to get rid of these entirely. Yeah, just get rid of them all together. Oops, I overpainted a little bit here. If you want to get rid of the painted sections, hold down Alt and then paint again. Alright, just want to make sure I didn't grab too many. So then, because we masked this out, all the green stuff is going to be what's deleted. So then we're going to go and do Control-I to invert the mask. And then we're going to go to Torso and delete vertices. And bada bing, bada boom. Alright, deselect the pencil, grab the Transform tool, and then we're going to rotate it so it's facing the sky. And then we're going to smush it. About like that. That looks good. And then I'm going to pull it down. So it's about in line with the vanilla mesh. And so the reason we brought in the coin is so we can see, because the coin sits directly at ground level. So the coin, based off of where that is, you'll be able to tell exactly what parts of your mesh are going to be clipping in the ground and what parts won't be. It's not overly that important, but just in case you're, you know, finicky about those kind of things, I just wanted to add that in. So we're gonna go ahead and get rid of the coin now because I don't mind those little bits clipping into the ground. The torso, that looks pretty good. It's lined up pretty well. So we'll get rid of that now. And then finally, now that that's finished, we're going to do File, Export to Nif. And then we're going to have to find Data, Meshes, Armor, our mod folder, and then cut, Briar, underscore, GMD. Yep. And then click Save. And then that is all done. Alright, so we got our 0, our 1, and our G&D. So now, finally, after all this time, we are at the creation kit. This is a very exciting moment, because now this is where we put it all together in game. Alright? So now, go ahead and open up your Skyrim Special Edition creation kit. Alright, once you have your creation kit open, you're going to go up to File, Data, you're going to click on the Skyrim.esm. If you, for whatever reason, want this to be reliant on one of the DLCs or something like that, or use content from one of the DLCs rather, you'll also add in the DLC. Say you want to place your armor on like the vampires from Dawnguard or something like that. That's when you'll load that in. But we're just doing base game for now, so double click Skyrim.esm and click OK and wait for it to load. Once you're in the creation kit, go ahead and just close this warnings window, nothing there is important. The first thing you're going to do is we're going to be making the armor add-on. Now, armor in Skyrim has two different pieces. It's the actual armor and then the armor add-on. So we're going to make the armor add-on first. So go ahead and in your object window, click armor add-on tab. And then you're going to be looking for the armor that you used as your reference. I'm going to be using the Thieves Guild Cuirass. Again, if you're making separate armor pieces like boots, cuirass, helmet, gloves, all that fun stuff, you are going to be making an armor add-on and an armor nif for each one of those pieces. But I'm just making a one-piece armor, so I'm only going to be making one. So, Thieves Guild Cuirass, we're going to double-click on that. I'm going to immediately rename the ID to Briar AA. Always add on the AA at the end so you know it's the armor add-on. So for biped model, we're going to be clicking select, edit, and then we're going to be finding our armor, tutorial Briar, and then tutorial Briar, and then you're going to be using the _1. This goes for all your armor pieces, always _1, and then click open. Guess all. Oops. Close. Alright, so now we can see her in there. Looking good, lady. Alright, click OK. Now, for the first person, you can go ahead and make a first person model. For this, you'd basically be deleting everything that's not the arms, right? However, personally, I just use the same. A lot of people don't, a lot of people do. It really depends on your reasoning for doing so. Personally, the reason why I use the same Nif tutorial Briar 1 tutorial Briar _1, the reason why I use the same Nif, I'm gonna go here and go ahead and click OK, is because of those mods that add in the first person camera where you look down and see your whole body. This strategy using, just the normal one here, it makes it compatible with all those mods. So you can still look down and see your whole body when you're wearing this armor. Oftentimes, and this isn't for all of them, but oftentimes if you make your own separate one with just the arms, those mods where you get the first person camera and you look down, you can see your feet and your body and stuff, it doesn't work anymore. So it is a preference thing. It's whatever you want to do. But that's how I'm doing it. So this was the male right here. I didn't make a separate male. One, so I just used the female one. You can always also just use the vanilla one if you're only making it for one of the genders. But I'm just adding in to both because I think it's funny. The model looks funny when you put it on a go down here, tutorial Briar 1, okay, and then select tutorial Briar 1, okay, and then okay. All right, and then here for the biped objects, because mine is a full piece, I'm going to be adding in the feet, the calves, the forearms, the body, and that is it. I'm not adding in the hands because my model works better when the hands are not added in. However, yours might not. A general rule of thumb, and this isn't for everything, every armor mod is going to be a little bit different, but as a general rule of thumb, when you're selecting the biped objects, for cuirasses and torsos, you're going to be adding in the body, the forearm, and the calves. For the boots, you could add in the feet and the calves. For the gloves, you're going to be adding in the hands and the forearms. And then for helmets, you add in hair and ears. Right? So body, forearms, calves. For torso, boots, get feet and calves. Gloves, get hands and forearms. Helmets, get hair and ears. All right. And again, it really just depends on your mesh. You're gonna have to play with it. But that is a general guideline to follow. And if you need to reference that guideline again in writing, just make it easier for you, you can find it in the tutorial document that I'll be linking below. That goes along with this tutorial. So we finish our armor add-on, we're going to go ahead and click OK. When it says, do you want to create a new form, you click yes. All right, now we're going to be creating the armor. Let's go ahead and find the cuirass, tutorial, Briar, and then Briar cuirass. Value, let's just make it like 600. This is where you can add your enchantments if you wanted to have an enchantment by default. We'll just add in, let's do Fortify Health. This is where you can change the weight of the armor. I want it to weigh a little bit less. Let's keep it at 8. Armor rating, we'll do 50. That seems about right. Then we're going to go to the biped object. We're going to be copying pretty much the exact same thing that we put in the other one. So body, forearms, feet, calves. Is that everything? Yeah, okay. So that's everything. So this is going to be the armor slots that it takes up, right? So I'm not including hands because I had some issues with this model before when I included hands. But this will also make it so, since I'm not including hands, they'll be able to equip gauntlets over it, which I'm fine with. If you don't want them to be able to equip an amulet with it, do that. Click amulet, click ring. It's up to you entirely. So these are all these are all like the armor slots basically. So I mean, if you don't click body, then they'll be able to equip anything else that has body. So right, so they won't be able to equip anything that covers the body, the forearms, the feet, or the calf. So basically, no cuirasses, no boots. That's pretty much it. Then once you're done there, for world model, we're gonna go edit, armor, tutorial Briar.gnd. There we go. Okay. Same thing here. Briar.gnd. And this is our world model. Click OK. Alright. And now, next thing we're going to do is the vanilla armor add-on that's set in this box right here, the models box. You're going to right click it, click delete, then click new. Then you're going to look for yours. Here's mine. Click OK. It's added in. Alright, now this should be good. This should theoretically be working. You'll be able to equip it in-game and all that fun stuff. One more thing for the keywords. If you want it to be classified, you know, as whatever it is, I'm still classifying it as a cuirass, but you can classify it, you know, as whatever you want. I recommend if it is a cuirass, classify it as such. If it's boots, as such, you know, whatever. This is also where you classify it as heavy or light armor, and also vendor item armor, whether it can be given to vendors and stuff like that. So go ahead and click OK. Create new item form. Yes. All right. And the last thing that we have to do in the creation kit is do the crafting recipes. Crafting recipes. So we're going to go down here in the object window to constructible object. I'm going to get the one for leather armor. So leather armor, there are two different types. There's the temper recipe and then the recipe. Recipe refers to you making it at like a smithy. And then the temper refers to you improving it at a workbench. So let's go ahead and do the smithy first. Recipe, armor, leather curse. Open up. All right, there we go. So we're going to keep recipe. Spell it right. All right. Created object. Immediately going to change this to Briar armor. And then over here is where you can add in all the different pieces. So let's just say I want it to also include 1 ingot of corundum. So we'll add in that as well. Count, we'll do 2. No, I'm going to keep it at 1. But you can also go over here and change it, so maybe I want less leathers, do like 3 or something. Now, these match conditions determine what exactly the player needs to be able to craft these things, whether it comes to like skill-wise or something like that. So let's just say I want them to have like they can't craft it until they can do steel smithing. So the best and easiest way to do this is to find a piece of armor with the perk already attached to it. And then we'll go over here to, let's do recipe armor steel shield. We'll double click this and open it. And then has perk steel smithing, we'll just copy this and then we will paste it. Sorry, copy condition, paste condition. All right, and then we can click out of that. And so now they have to have the steel smithing perk. Let's say, actually that's good. That's good. All right, and then we'll click OK. New form, yes. All right, and then now we need to do the temper. I just wanted to be 1 leather. Remember, created object. I'm going to go to your armor. We'll keep the perk arcane blacksmith. That's good. Tempering item is enchanted. We'll keep that. That's fine. And that looks pretty good. Again, you can include perks and stuff like that in here if you want to. It's completely up to you. You know, whatever you want to do. But I'm pretty happy with this. You just want to make sure that the created armor is correct and that the ID is changed. And that, you know, whatever required items you have are in there. I'm going to be using leather. And then we'll just do OK. Create new form, yes. All right, and that should just about do it. So now we're going to go ahead and go in game and test it out. Now, I already know that the weight paints on this armor aren't perfect right now. So I'm going to show you what it looks like in game when your weights aren't painted totally correct, and then I'm going to quickly show you how to fix that, and then I'm going to show you a final armor that looks like really good, the weight paints are done, and you know how everything's supposed to look. All right, so let's go ahead and load up Skyrim real quick so I can show you. Before we do that though, we're going to go ahead and save our plugin. You just go up to here and click Save Plugin. We're going to do Control S, and then you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it same thing. Save. All right, and then it's saved. And then we will go ahead and close the creation kit. Fucking Christ. So, with our ingots added, we're going to go ahead and craft our armor here. Let's check it out. It's looking pretty cool. Go ahead and add that in. All right, nice. So you can see here, it's on our character. It's working, right? And so, I do want to point out a couple issues. So, as you can see here, we have some issues on our hands where the little bit that was supposed to be hanging over our hands are seemingly gone, right? So that's kind of an issue, and that has to do with the partitions, and we can fix that in Outfit Studio. Additionally, as you can see here, we have some bad weight painting here, you know, with the mesh clipping all the way through it. So let's turn off TFC. Right, so as we're running around, you can kind of see how the mesh is not really, like, when we jump, you can kind of see here how the mesh is, like, all stretched out. So we're going to need to fix that. But just show that the crafting recipes are working. We can improve our armor with one leather. Additionally, we can go ahead and go over here. We can craft another one. Just want to show that this also works on followers.
What do you need to take?
Oops, I accidentally gave her both of them. I can't be naked. Right. So as you can see here, it also works on followers. And like I mentioned before, since I didn't select the hands when we were creating the armor piece, she can also be wearing gauntlets with it, right? As you can see, you know, let's have a run around. I mean, it's working. It's working best as it can right now with all these clipping and weight painting issues. So we're gonna go ahead and so we're getting here, and then I will meet you in Outfit Studio. All right, here in Outfit Studio, we got our mesh loaded up, and so the first thing we're gonna fix are the partitions, right? Right. So everything looks fine here. We're gonna want to make sure that we have the gauntlets, because the gauntlets were the partitions that were having issues, right? So as you can see here, the red is what's not part of this partition group, and the and this like bluish color is what is currently part of the partition group, right? And so as you can see here, all this red on the hands, that's what was missing when we were in game, right? And it's because they are part, those pieces of the mesh are part of the forearms partition group. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on the forearms, and we're gonna go ahead and just paint over it, make sure it's all red. So now on the hands, it's all green. And then we click apply. And so that should fix that issue there. If you're having any other issues like that in game, just go ahead and check the partitions. And mess around with those, play around with changing, you know, what parts of the mesh are on what partition group, until it's working again. And then one other thing that I wanted to show you is how to do weight painting. I'm not gonna go over the like me fully weight painting this model, because I've already done it once for the full release of the mod, but I do just want to show you how it works. So mainly what we were having issues were right here, you know, this area of the arm. So we're gonna go ahead and find the bone that would be closest to it. So I know that the forearm, the upper arm is the bone that is right here. All these bones are named very aptly. So this being the upper arm, that means that we're looking for the upper arm right bone. So NBC upper arm right. Right? So, also, you want to make sure that you have correct mesh selected here. We're working on torso. So, bones. Alright, so as we can see here, blue means that it's hardly affected, and red means that it's very strongly affected. And everything in the middle is, you know, gradiented from green to yellow to orange, right? So, what we can do to kind of see how our weight paints are affecting our model, because like here it doesn't really look like we're having any issues. What we can do though is we can go into the posing tab, click show pose, select the bone that we're working on, so MBCR upper arm, right upper arm. Then we can change the rotation, so let's change the rotation like that. Right, so we see here a couple different issues, right? So we have it's stretching like this, which means that we want to paint this in a little bit more. We want it to have, because it's like stretching away, right? It's because the weight paint on this is really weak. We can take away some of the weight painting here. Let's actually up the brush strength a little bit here. We can take away the weight painting and see it only gets worse. However, if we increase the weight painting on it, it gets a lot better. I'm just gonna up this a lot here. It starts forming to the model a little bit better, right? You also don't want to, it's a balancing act. You don't want it to be too much all over the entire thing, because that can cause issues with it deforming too much, right? So it's a balancing act, and you're going to want to play around with it. But you being able to pose, it and see how everything is deforming is a really, really neat tool that, honestly, I don't even think that like Blender or anything like that has. So, you know, take full advantage of this. I recommend doing all the weight painting up Studio, because it is really, really good for it. So you can see here, even though we have full, red on this, it's still being affected by something else. So what we can do is we can go ahead and start cycling through all these bones here and start messing with them. We're going to keep with the upper arm bones here, since this seems to be the problem area. And you can see here, if I paint in on these twist bones, it starts deforming back even more, right? Camera in Outfit Studio is a little bit wonky, so just bear with me, right? So we're going to go to upper arm twist 2, paint that in. As we can see here, that is way, way closer, but still not perfect, right? And so the question here is, why exactly is it not perfect? What is the issue that we're having here? Because it's still stretching. Well, because it's stretching towards this spine here, it might be an issue with the spine bone. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to find the spine bones. Spine 1. It's not having any effect, right? So it's not painted at all. Spine 1, that's not the issue. Spine 2, not having any effect. So it's not there either. Or spine 1. But spine 2, there we go. Now we see that spine 2 is having a, honestly, pretty heavy effect on this for no discernible reason. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of the weight paints on that entirely, because it really shouldn't have any effect on this piece of armor. This should be completely controlled by the upper arm bone. And so now we can see it's deforming correctly, right? So we can move this around, try it out, right? And it seems to be working pretty well. And so you're just going to want to make sure that like you identify any problem areas that you're having when you test it out the first time, write them down or something, and then just flip through all these different bones, right? And then just check on the weight painting for it, right? So you're probably going to have to go back and forth between this a couple times just to make sure you get everything right. I probably had to go back and forth between Skyrim and Outfit Studio doing my weight painting 2 times. It's not out of the ordinary to be spending days on just trying to get the weight painting right. So don't feel bad if it's not working the first time. And don't be too stressed out if there's just like issue after issue and you're just really trying to figure it out. Just keep working at it. There's a lot of really great tutorials on weight painting, especially for like Blender and stuff like that, and that can really help you out. If I can find any really good ones that I trust, I'll go ahead and link them in the description below to try and give you guys a basic on weight painting, have somebody explain it a little bit better than I can. But that is how you weight paint in Outfit Studio. One thing that I wanted to mention right before we go though is that over here, we have the bone all posed and everything. Before you save and exit and everything, just make sure you click reset bone, right? All right, and then you can save. And now that that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and finish the rest of this, and then I will meet you back in Skyrim. So this is VoiceOver Noah here. I accidentally forgot to mention in the video that after you do your weight painting and fix all your weights, you have to go back into BodySlide, open up your armor or your clothing or whatever it is, set the high weight to whatever it was before, and then click the build button again. Once you do that, all the meshes will go back in like normal, but I just forgot to mention that. I wanted to leave that here. Enjoy the rest of the tutorial. Thanks. Alright, so here we go. This is the final reveal of the armor. And as you can see here, a lot of these clipping issues that I mentioned from before have been dealt with. The bits on her hand, they have now appeared. And even the minor clipping issues that still exist can be fixed with a few more minutes in Outfit Studio working on the weight painting. But overall, I am exceptionally happy with how this armor came out. I am very, very excited to see what you guys have come up with, what you guys have made. I know you guys are going to make some really awesome stuff with this tutorial, or at least I hope so. The very last thing that I want to do before we end off the tutorial today is I want to go ahead and show you how to flag your mod as an ESM and how to package it all up. so you can send it off on to Nexus. First things first, let's flag this baby as an ESL. So you're gonna need SEdit. Before anything, we're gonna run our mod through the SEdit quick auto clean. We're gonna select just our mod. This is my final version of the mod, so we're just gonna run that. Click OK. What this is gonna do is it's gonna check for any issues that your mod is having. And it's going to go ahead and automatically fix a lot of them for you and flag any ones that it doesn't automatically fix for you to fix yourself. So far, having no issues. A lot of the times, if you have made a record that you ended up deleting and stuff like that, it'll show up here, and this is where you can actually, like, for real delete it. This mod looks good. I didn't have anything like that, so that's pretty good. Next thing we're going to do is open up SSE edit, and then we are going to load our mod. Okay, and then wait for this baby to load up. Alright, and you're gonna wait for it until it says finished, like it does right here. You don't really need to load every single mod that you have. To be honest, I don't really know why I did. But anyways, you're gonna find your mod, you're gonna click on it, then you're gonna go up to record flags, double click on that, and say let me think about it, yes I'm absolutely sure, and then you're just gonna tick ESL. Okay, then you're gonna click out of that. And then you're going to do Control S to save change files. Okay, so if you are having this issue in your mod where it says record temper blah 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 has invalid object ID for light module, you will not be able to save this file with the ESL flag active. That is totally okay, do not panic. Go ahead and go over to the record flags, double click on it, and then untick ESL. Then you're going to right click on your file. You're going to go to compact form IDs for ESL. You're going to click yes, right? Then you're going to double click on it again. Go back to view, record flags, ESL, and then save it. Done saving. Now your mod is officially an ESL. You can go ahead and close SEdit now. And then I highly recommend at this point, just to make sure that nothing got totally broken somehow, just loading up your mod in-game again, just to test it out. So I'll be right back when I finish doing that. After you've tested it out in-game, and you know for a fact it works, let's go ahead and package it all up in a nice little present and call it a day. So first thing you're going to do is make a new folder on your desktop called Data. Then you're going to make one called Meshes. And then another one called Textures. Then in your Meshes folder, you're going to make a new folder called Armor. And then the name of your mod. And then you can go ahead and copy this Armor folder, paste it in the Textures one, just so you don't have to make two new folders again. First, we're going to add in the textures. So in your new Data Textures Armor Briar folder, or mod folder, whatever it is, you're going to go into your Skyrim data folder and then follow the same file path and grab the textures. Armor, Briar, then grab those, paste them in. These are my 4K textures. We'll be making a 2K variant here in a second. And then same thing with the meshes. Textures, go back to your data folder in Skyrim, meshes, armor, Briar, and then grab these, paste them in. Alright, cool. And then back in the beginning of the brand new data folder, gonna go into your Skyrim data folder, look for your mod. Mine is lost in here somewhere. Let's see here. There we go. Copy it, and then paste it. And there you go. Now it's all packaged up. If you are making a 2K variant, what you're going to do is you're going to press this to zip. Alright, then we're going to call this, we're going to give it the name of your mod. So, Briar, and then I'm going to call it underscore 4K, because these are the 4K textures. You're going to want to double click it, just, you know, go through all the folders, make sure that everything's working. So I've had mods uploaded in the past where something got broken during the zip compression, and it's a whole big thing. So I don't want that to happen to you guys, so make sure that doesn't happen. So now, back in the folder, we're going to delete the textures from the new data folder, and then instead we are going to bring in the 2K variants. Where is it? Oh, there it is. All right, 2K variants. Copy and paste those in. And now we're going to zip that up. So prior underscore 2K. Done diddly done. All right. So now you have your 4K variant and your 2K variant. I'm gonna open up my 2K, make sure that's all working. Yep. All right. And now you're done. One thing I want to stress very strongly is I am by no means an expert on this. There are many, 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 many other very talented modders in the community that are far better at making armor mods than I am. They know a lot more about it. This is just how I do it. This is what works for me, what can work for you. There might be some issues here and there with, you know, my methods of doing it, based off of, you know, like best techniques sort of thing, or, you know, what other people prefer. But this is how it works for me. If you follow everything step by step, and you go through it just as I told you to, you will have a finished working armor mod at the end of the day. Nothing will be broken. It will be plenty compatible with other mods, and everything should be fine as long as you do everything right. So that's all I wanted to say. I really appreciate you guys watching. My next video will be the Oblivion weapon mods tutorial, so make sure you look out for that. I'm really excited to work on that, and then after that I have a couple other ideas for videos that I want to make, just a bunch of other really small modding tutorials, just like little bite-sized content that I know a lot of people have questions about, and that I don't, you know, usually have the time to make a full video on, but I just plan on making quick, like 5-minute little snippets that you guys can watch and, you know, learn how to fix small issues that you're having here and there throughout your mods. If you have any ideas for what you'd like to see in the future, I'd really highly appreciate you letting me know, and letting me know what you want to see. Let me know down in the comments what you think of doing a Discord, because I'd really like to be able to keep in touch with you guys a little bit better and be more active in the community. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna end it there. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. So to do this, I'm gonna go up to File,